I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Director Robertson, would you please read our vision statement?
Absolutely. Education that challenges conventional thinking prepares all students to compete in a global society and inspire our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Superintendent Tate, we have a showcase.
Mr. President and Board of Directors, we have Sudlow Intermediate School here tonight, and I'll call on Principal Bruce Potts to get us started. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for this opportunity. What we want to showcase for you tonight is our School Within a School program. Last year at semester, we were given the okay to develop a School Within a School program to target a handful of students that met two or more of the following criteria. Some behavior issues that were getting in the way of their learning, some attendance issues that were getting in the way of their learning, and or academic issues that were getting in the way of their learning. And so we put together a program. We hired an excellent teacher, Ms. Farnsworth, and she's here this evening to share some of the details of the program. And we have three of our students here who wanted to come and talk to you about the program. Mrs. Farnsworth?
Good evening, and thank you for having us here. I just have a short slideshow I want to go ahead and show tonight. I also have three young gentlemen with me. If you guys can step up and introduce yourselves. Go ahead, Mateo.
Mateo Villagomez. Joshua Ekman.
Avery Aldershoff.
Thank you. So we started the Sudlow School Within a School program in February. Some people ask, what is SWS? SWS is also known as School Within a School. It's a program that offers a lot of one-on-one instruction, small group setting for every core subject from math, reading, language arts, science, and social studies. We really break it down. We're really basing everything off of the standard curriculum, but we also offer intervention programs, RTI 95%, Western Virginia Phonics. So they're getting a constant balance of regular curriculum followed from the core standards and intervention techniques. We also do some special incentive programs. We have a class store. I know the students want to talk about that, so I'll let them. One of the biggest parts of our program, however, is the character building piece. We do a leadership piece every day. We also do real-life learning. They learn everything from how to shake hands with someone, how to organize notes, to what it means to volunteer and really give back to the community. Just to touch base on the curriculum, like I said, we follow the Iowa standard. We're core aligned. We do the grade level pacing guides. So I work a lot with the other teachers within the building to follow exactly what they're teaching when they're teaching, but I also offer a double dose with our intervention techniques. We do the character education. Every Wednesday we volunteer within the community. Last year we went to Manor Care on Locust and just spent time with the elderly, did craft projects, played games from trivia, just socialized. I mean, it's a big part to really get them out there, and the residents really enjoyed that piece. Here's some pictures from our character building. Like I said, we talk about life skills. We talk about what it means to be a good citizen of this great community. We talk about the importance of volunteering. And here's some students at their work. They're volunteering at Manor Care. In the lower left corner, they're making a paper mache project with the residents where they were trying to make a balloon paper mache of the resident that they had a really good connection with. And then I just want you guys to celebrate with us. Attendance before SWS, our class average was at 83%. Attendance after, and this is just from February to May, so we bumped that up to 95%. The number of lates before SWS was 17. 17 tardies was the class average. Once it started, we were down to under 1. So that's a massive growth. Our SMI class average growth from February to May was 122 points. Just to give everyone an idea, 70 Lexile points is the average growth within a year. So they were at 122 within those short months. SRI was at 194 points of growth from February to May. So just an outstanding group of kids, worked really hard this past year. Now I'm going to let the boys talk a little bit. Come on up here. And these are some of the quotes that we pulled from them last year, what they said they liked about it. Go ahead and start, Mateo.
What I liked about SWS program is from my grades from low to high, and that it gave me the attention I needed.
Go ahead. Just talk about what you like.
I like the smaller classroom size, the one-on-one attention. Yeah, you can.
Well, how about, how have you changed since last year?
I changed from walking out and cussing out teachers to getting good grades and not walking out.
Good. Josh, go ahead. Why don't you tell them about our incentive program? Our incentive program, our class store. Go ahead, we can do it. Come on, I'll come up here with you. Okay, and I have Josh here, and he's going to talk to you about the incentive program we have in class, what keeps them motivated throughout the week to really work hard.
I forgot
We
to
have
say.
a class.
We have a class store and a softball field shaped thing where we have little things with a name on it, and we go around and we get a star every time we go around it.
And how do you earn money for your class store? You have to do what in class? You guys want to help them?
We have to have good behavior.
You have to be at school. You have to get your work done. And some things that we put in our class store is just whatever interests the student. So I have one student in my classroom who's really big into art. So the class store is filled with sketchbooks because that's what motivates her every week. Okay. Do you guys have some questions for the students? Go ahead, come back up. All three of you.
Director Robertson.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Yeah.
And the thing that I was really impressed by, I always believe if you're not in school, you can't learn. And now you were able to have them come to school, and the absentee rate is down to less than 1. So my hat is off because I know if they're there, they are learning some things that they will need to take with them for the rest of their life. So I certainly appreciate the effort and continued good success to you.
Well, thank you.
Director Sherwood.
What do your parents think about this?
My mother thinks it's very good. It's very good. It helps me out through my process.
And have your office referrals been cut down quite a bit?
Yes, I didn't really have one.
You didn't have many before? Yeah? Okay, that's cool.
Avery, you can kind of talk about that.
I used to get a lot of referrals,
And now?
and now I don't.
Are you referral free or are they?
I'm referral free.
You're referral free.
Free.
And what? Let me ask you one more. What do your mom or your parents think about this?
My parents think it's a good idea.
Yeah, they're pretty excited about you not getting any referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
And I will say, with this program, because we have an alternative schedule, the students come to school about 15 minutes later. We eat breakfast together. They also end about 40 minutes earlier at Sudlow. That time slot allows me the opportunity to make home visits as needed, to communicate with the parents. I mean, I think I have an outstanding group of parents who are really supportive, and it just keeps that communication line going smoothly.
And our last young man there.
Josh,
Wait, what do I say?
any question for Josh?
Well, I would just ask you the same questions. What are your parents? How are your parents taking this?
My parents think it's amazing.
Good. That's great. And could you give me just a little bit of information about your background? How long you've been teaching, and what's your background?
I was actually a long-term sub position at Sudlow 2 years ago, and after that I got hired on as the temp at will last year for the pilot program. I am a new teacher. This is my first contracted year as a teacher in this district, but I have been subbing at Sudlow and the other schools in the district for 3 years.
And this character curriculum you're using, is this Lions Quest Skills for Action? Is that what you're using?
No, it's actually a leadership piece we pulled from West High School for the character ed.
And that's, you're modifying that for intermediate, or that
Yes.
was
Yep.
already modified?
Yep, we modify it. They have, it was basically a year of material to pick from, and that was the material we used from February to May. So we just picked, it's respect, it's honesty, it's being a positive role model, it's what it means to have goals, to set goals, all of the things that, middle schoolers can use, and just adapting it so it fits what they need.
And when you say we, who's we?
Mr. Potts, Miss AC, they have been such strong supporters and great advocates for this program. So we're in constant communication. They've guided the direction of this. I'm really just on the boat, and they've created the path. So they're really steering us in the direction that we need to go.
Thank you.
Director Clough?
Question for the 3 students. You've all indicated that you like SWS, and so I wonder if each of you could give me one word that, you've got regular school, you've got SWS. What one word would describe how you feel about SWS? Now you don't have, there's no right answer with this, so any answer will do. Don't feel like you have to say something just to be proper, but one word. What is it that would describe your experience with SWS compared to regular school?
Growth and
Growth.
grades.
Good.
Good word.
Anybody else got a word?
What word would you pick to describe SWS?
Now this is not easy, but remember there's no wrong answer.
Great.
Grades. Better grades.
Better grades.
Better grades. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Come on up here. He would like to ask a question that he would like to answer, and that is, what would make SWS better? Go ahead.
A smart board and iPads.
Are there any other questions by the board? Is that the end of the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Well, I wanted to thank Mr. Potts and Ms. Farnsworth, but especially Mateo, right?
Yes, sir.
And Josh and Avery. You 3 did just a great job up here. You really did. And thank you very much for sharing like you did tonight. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
This is okay. Last time it was.
Okay, well, we're pleased to have a new student board, and so we'd like each of you to tell us a little bit about yourselves. Give us your name, your school, of course, maybe something you learned today, maybe something that's really interesting about yourself. So take a little bit of time, tell us something about yourself. Desiree, we'll start with you, and we'll go on down the line.
I'm Desiree. I go to Kimberly Center. I'm a senior. And I love my school a lot. a lot. I used to hate going to school. Now I love going to school.
I'm Beth Houghton. I go to Kimberly Center. I am a junior, and I absolutely love going to Kimberly. I went from skipping to failing every class to being on time and passing with an A or a B.
Hello, I'm Emily Huber from Davenport West. Today, from these board meetings, I think I'll learn how we can express what's going on in our school and how we can fix that. So.
I'm Cody Pribble from West, and the board meeting today has definitely taught me that I can express the leadership qualities that I know I have.
I'm Carolyn Emery from Davenport North. So far I've learned just that there are so many things going on in the schools in this district that I don't know about and that we should know about. And I really enjoy doing volunteer work.
My name's Hannah Harrington. I am a senior at North, and I'm really excited to just hear about all the stuff going on in the district and just open up my knowledge to other things happening.
Hi, my name is Cameron Pugh, and I'm from Davenport Central, and what I've learned so far is that from those little guys back there that if you put your mind to something, you can do whatever you want, no matter what it is.
Hi, I'm Adam Cole from Davenport Central, and just something about myself was that I really like this because I attended Boys State over the summer, and I was part of the governor's office, and we kind of had a setup like this with policy, and so I'm really excited to see how this works and how well, how the policy is formed and how it's made and the process behind that.
Hi, my name's Elise Castro. I'm from Davenport Central. I'm really proud of the fact that I'm very involved in my school, and something I've learned today is, like Caroline said, I'm not really aware of what goes on in the other schools, so I'm excited to hear about what does go on.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for being here. I am going to say that tonight should be a pretty easy evening for agenda, and so I would open it up to the board. Are there any questions or comments by the board for our new student board members? Director Zamora.
I would just say that I knew Emily's mother when she was way younger than Emily, and I'm looking forward to seeing if she's really like her mom.
Great. Anybody else? Director Sherwood.
Yeah, and I'm sure I speak for the rest of the board too. We're available to you folks anytime you have questions, anything like that, in the board meeting, out of the board meeting, whenever we can help you with information. Please don't hesitate to call on us, because we're going to be asking you for information as well. So it'll be a two-way street going on here. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Director DeFau.
Knowing how very busy all of you are, I just want to thank you for the time you're willing to dedicate to improve our district. So thanks. We look forward to working with you.
Director Crumley.
As Director DeFau just mentioned, we know how busy high school students are in this district, and I know that, or all of us know that you probably will not be here at every meeting. We hope you can make as many as you can. We hope this is a real learning experience for you, which I'm sure it will be. And my other hope, or our other hope, is that you interact with us, because when it comes to especially student issues, we need to hear from you. And so we try also, our president's been very good about asking students to interact with us so we can get your opinions, so we can make better decisions. So again, thank you for serving our district in this role.
Thank you. Director Kluhl.
Well, welcome aboard the good ship Davenport, and Desiree has experience with having been on the board, and it is true that over the course of the year sometimes things get a little tedious and our group of students tends to shrink. Of course, you get busier during the year too, but we have always intended to make this a meaningful experience for student school board members, and as Adam said, the board, the folks up here in front, are primarily responsible for policy. And we make the best policy when it's well informed, and we're going to really be relying on our student school board members to help us make good policy this year. Thank you.
Anybody else? One thing I guess I would maybe reiterate or reinforce some of the comments. Of course, thank you for participating, but don't be shy either. In the position up here, oftentimes I'm thinking about what's happening with the meeting, and I might be thinking about what's happening at the board. And if you do have something to say, get my attention. We do try to recognize you to the best of our ability, but sometimes it's difficult. So, yeah, don't be shy, all right? So thank you very much. We're going to get started with our board meeting now. We'll start with communications. September 10th, tomorrow, is school board elections. And it's important that everybody participate in that if at all possible. September 12th, 4 p.m., Legislative Advocacy Committee at the ASC, Meeting Room B. September 16th, 5 p.m., open session / excuse me, board discussion on diversity at the ASC, Jim Hester Boardroom. September 23rd, 7 p.m., organizational and annual meeting, ASC, Jim Hester Boardroom. October 2nd, 4 p.m., policy meeting, ASC Executive Boardroom. October 3rd, 4 p.m., Legislative Advocacy Meeting, ASC Executive Boardroom. October 7th, 5:30 p.m., Committee of the Whole Meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. October 14th, 7 p.m., Regular Meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. October 28th, 7 p.m., Regular Meeting, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. Next is open forum for community input. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We'll start. We have one open forum request. It's from Mackenzie Gibson. Mackenzie, would you come up to the microphone and please give us your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
My name is Mackenzie Gibson, and my address is 3611 West 43rd Street. I am here as a student of Davenport Central to represent the voice of the students enrolled in the Davenport Community School System regarding the strict no phone policy and why appropriate phone usage should be allowed during school. Other outlining districts such as North Scott, Assumption, Bettendorf, Rock Island, and Pleasant Valley have passed the new phone policy in their schools, in Davenport Central, and the Davenport school system is the last to cave. If we just tested the new policy on the students in Davenport, I think the school board and central students would really notice a positive effect. This includes reduced phone usage during class periods and thus increasing the attention span of students. I've seen firsthand other students that are otherwise not disruptive during class get kicked out of class due to the strict no phone policy. And I feel that this is a big problem and it can be reduced by passing this new policy. These days, almost everybody has a phone in their pocket. I mean, I myself, I'm in a low income apartment building, and I have my own phone. So I feel like phones have evolved into being so much more than what they used to be. We're able to hold, whole worlds in the palm of our hands, and I feel like that kind of thing should not be discouraged. It can only grow. every day we as young adults are being told by adults that we are the voices of tomorrow. And if so, school officials need to acknowledge that our voices matter. I mean, give me a chance and, give us a chance to have a voice. That's all I have.
Mackenzie, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That was very well said. Thanks. Move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Crumwoody.
I move the consent agenda as presented by the administration.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Crumwoody?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
No.
Director Sherwood?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion regarding approval of bills?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I move that the board approve the administration's recommendation for the adoption of bills from the bill listing period August 22nd, 2013 through September 4th, 2013. Resolution is as follows. Resolved that all claims presented to the board, having been duly certified as correct by the Secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn in the Treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented with the following voided check, that being check number 309666, payable to Mount Vernon High School in the amount of $70, and that event was canceled.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Sherwood?
Yes.
Director Crumwoody?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Superintendent report.
Mr. President, our district police liaison, Andy Nyrick, received the following email from Lieutenant Jamie D. Brown, who's in the Davenport Police Department. Make sure to contact North High School administration. It's going to be good news. Everybody's kind of tightening up. And let them know how proud they should be of their student body. At last week's game, the football game, they took the time and cleaned up all the garbage in the student section and threw it away before they left the stands. It was quite impressive, and I've never seen that before in the past 10 years working the games. I don't know if it was directed or impulsive by the student body, but it was nice to see. And, of course, that was passed on to the principal, Jay Chelf. So it's great to receive some of those things from the police department. I'd like to make an announcement that this year our Iowa assessment test will be, rather than February, April 2nd through 15th. This will give us more of a chance for our past and our current reforms to work. We've thought long and hard about this, and we made sure that we can get this done and still get the test back in time to make a difference for our planning for the following year. So I at least wanted to announce that tonight.
Is that it? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion regarding North Softball Complex renovations?
Mr. President,
Director Zamora.
I recommend we approve the lowest responsive bid of $55,402 from Reed Construction of DeWitt, Iowa, to make the renovations of the softball complex at North High School.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
Director Kluhl.
Just curious about this. I remember being at the grand opening of the complex out there, and I'm just wondering if there's a lesson learned. There's some structural defects, some issues that happened that I wouldn't have expected to have happened this early. Is there a lesson learned here?
I think so. I am not aware of what the current or the past construction, how that came to be. The materials have just over the years, there were wood slats on the back. There was a plywood roof. It's just, we patched the roof last year just to get it through the summer. I think better materials and a better maybe a cohesive plan of all of those coming together at the same time will make it a better project.
I guess maybe it was a case where the lowest bid wasn't necessarily the most responsive.
I'm not sure how they bid it and what it came in at. I can tell you that it would be different construction this time with hopefully a better outcome.
Okay, thank you.
Director Sherwood.
And if this takes a long time, then we'll do it some other time. But Rich's question is, I think, it's real good in the sense of how do you record these kinds of issues and hold that against contractors when they're building for us in other capacities?
Well, we have a good record of when the bid was, when the project was done, who got the bid. Probably have plans and specs for that. I'm not sure how old that complex is. Do you have any idea, Director?
I don't, but
8 or 9 years.
Yeah, the issue I think is very valid that we see flawed construction. We see, and sometimes personnel like yourself may not be here, and to speak to it. It would seem to me that we should have some mechanism for assessing the competency of contractors and then holding them, to task when they come up for bid.
I would agree.
Director DeFau.
Director Kluhl's question raises one of my own. This bid is $55,402, significantly less than the estimated cost. Is there an explanation?
Yeah, well, I think there's a few things. One, it continues to be a good bid climate. Two is the timing of the project. A lot of contractors are looking for work as we come out of the summer months and into the fall and winter. And I think third, it just reflects we get 4 bids, which would be unusual for a project of this size, which is, I think, points to the competition that's out there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Sure.
If I could just ask, does this bid include how long the construction is supposed to last this time?
Well, they're built to a typical. I would look to say 30 years. That's typically what our buildings. Something like that would be 30 years. The new projects that we're doing right now are 50 to 70 years. That's typically the construction that we would build for.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. We'll call for the vote. Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion regarding architect for Fillmore renovations?
Mr. President,
Director Robertson.
I move that we accept the administrative recommendation and approve Greg Galley of SGGM Architects of Davenport, Iowa for Fillmore Elementary School renovations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Crumwitty.
For the public's information, we received information from you, Scott, about what this renovation will be, but could you explain, especially for the Fillmore parents and staff, what is going on at Fillmore?
Sure. We've been working on this a few years with architects to determine what renovations could be taking place at Fillmore. One need that definitely need is larger classrooms. Their typical classroom on the north side of the building is about 730 square feet. We are intending to take the west side of the classroom bank and expand them by going north rather than out, which allows us to do the work more efficiently, without adding a new wall and getting 2 feet, 4 feet. That's pretty expensive with new windows and construction. So we are going lengthwise and taking a little bit of space. There's a cluster of small rooms that we can capture and make the resulting classrooms larger. We also have they have a definite need of student pickup and drop off, and we would like to relocate the office to that south side where the students can be dropped off. Probably expanding the parking lot and having a smoother drop off where they would come in the south side rather than the west side. And in the former office space, we would like to construct a multi-purpose room that will be large enough to serve as a cafeteria and also for other multi-purpose uses. Right now, the cafeteria and gym share the same space. What we want to do is get the gym to have their own space for physical education requirements and a cafeteria for their own requirements. It would be located directly adjacent to the kitchen, so it lends well to using that space. I think that's about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Call for the vote. Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Cromwell.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director DeFowl.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. May I have a motion regarding architect for Truman renovations?
Mr. President,
Director Robertson.
I move that we accept the administrative recommendation and approve Greg Gowey of SGGM Architect of Davenport, Iowa for Truman Elementary School renovations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Cromwell.
Yes, Scott,
Same.
I'm going to ask the same question of
Sure.
Truman,
Sure.
especially for the
Yeah, I'm
Truman
excited to
trans-
get this close to this renovation. Our air conditioning and heating is still working. We're going to replace their air conditioning and heating system at that school. We're not sure which system we're going to use yet. We're going to bring on a KJWW out of Rock Island as the engineers in this project. And so we haven't had a chance to sit down with them and go through the exact system that'll be there. We just know that the system they have is original to the building. It's over 30 years old. We've got our use out of it. 30 years is pushing mechanical equipment, especially for that building. Years ago, when they built the classrooms, they already had the ceiling and the ventilation in the ceiling and the lights. And when they put up the walls, they're portable walls, essentially meant to be permanent, but they are portable. They just laid it without regard to the lighting and the ventilation for the rooms. So I'm recommending that we take those walls out and replace them with a permanent wall. And then as we're doing the air conditioning and lighting, we replace the grid and everything so that it's cohesive to the room, and you don't have a duct that has the wall running right down through the middle of it. Just not very efficient for the air conditioning, and we might as well do it all together at the same time. We'd like to move the office to there's a classroom, a small space adjacent to the entrance on the south side of the entrance, and then relocate the media the media center into the former office space. We'll be taking some of those smaller offices that are there and blowing that out so it'd be a nice center. It'd be centered to all the building, and it would be a nice space for them. New classrooms would go into where the old IMC was. It would directly reflect those across the hall from it. I think there's 4 classrooms there, so we would have 3 to 4 classrooms there, depending on that. They're maybe a little bit shorter there because of the kitchen. And then we'd like to convert the old pool area into classrooms as well, and other spaces that they may need as we come up with the design. As we displace some things through the media center or the old office, we may need to create some additional spaces for staff. So that's the outline of what we plan to accommodate or finish.
I have a question about the permanent wall structure.
Mm-hmm.
So if permanent walls are replacing the demountable walls, will there be all new flooring throughout the building then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you can't do it without impacting that because those classrooms they probably average between 1,000 and maybe 1,050 square feet, which is quite a bit larger than the typical standard classroom of 900 square feet. So we're hoping to maybe gain some more space there. We haven't really gone into the planning of it to see it. There may be 6,000 feet there, but it may be 5.5 classrooms. So we need to see how that'll all fit once we do the programming. It would be all new flooring. You're correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Director Kluhl.
Just for the information of student school board members, the board has the last 10 years worked with Mr. Martin to put air conditioning in all of our schools. It's come from statewide penny sales tax dollars, and if you've been reading the reports recently, Illinois is shutting down schools, but we're able to maintain classrooms. So it's been a real, the hot weather's been kind of a godsend on behalf of how the board looks at things, because we've been able to stay in business and students have continued to be educated. I just had a question about Truman. I remember some years ago when we still had the heated pool there, and it was used by some lovely elderly ladies who, when it came time for us to shut down that pool operation, threatened to come into the board meeting in their swimming suits. This is our last opportunity for that pool, and I wonder if Director Crumwoody, having been the principal there, could just talk about why it is that we had that pool in the first place.
Well, just going back with the history of Truman School, Truman School was not built as an elementary school. Truman School was built as a school for special needs students from the age of 3 to age 21. That was prior to having inclusion in our district. So Truman, when Truman was built, that pool was a heated pool, especially for the clients who attended Truman School who needed especially a heated pool for physical needs. So we did a lot of physical therapy in that pool. That pool was at 92 degrees, I believe it was kept at. When Truman then began to integrate all the students out of Truman, and it became an elementary school, the pool was still left open. The issue of the keeping the pool open was, as I understand, the cost involved. And at that time, it ran about $40,000 a year to keep the pool open. So it did not pay for itself, even with all the special programs that they had through adult education. It just wasn't paying for itself. So that, as I understand, was the reason to close it down and drain it. And it's been sitting empty for quite some time.
Well, and I would imagine it's unlikely that the state will ever reverse course and do away with inclusion. I was just curious about why it was, and if at some point we might ever want to go back, but it doesn't sound like that probably will ever be the case.
Sure. Carolyn?
Yes. I went to Truman, and I believe I was in the 4th grade when they drained the pool. And I'm actually shocked to know that nothing has been done with it since. It's about 9 years it's been wasted space. So it's about time something's done with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director Crumwoody?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
Yes.
Director Sherwood? Yes. Director DeFau?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion regarding Unity Point?
Mr. President, before you move on,
Director Robertson.
please. Mr. Martin, I was trying to get you before you got too far away there. I know you're on crutches.
Sure.
The question I have is about contracts. We talking about the most, responsive bid. The question I have is that when someone, realizes that contract, is there a warranty associated with that contract that would say that in X amount of years, if these items deteriorated, that they would have to come back and do it at their cost and not at our cost?
Well, every project would have a lifespan.
Okay.
The typical construction would be much longer than 9 or 10 years if that's what it is.
Okay.
There's nothing that says we can't go back and legally hold them responsible after that, because who knows what environmental factors or personal factors, if someone had done some damage to it, it's kind of hard to go back and hold them accountable at that point after that many years. The quality of the project depends on the quality of the drawing and the design and the materials that you use.
So there are a lot of things that come into play, not
Yeah,
necessarily the
yeah.
actual contractor that was doing the construction.
So we would build that in, the quality. You have to build the quality in, or you get and I'm not saying anything against the quality. I don't know who the contractor was or when it was built. I'm just telling you the condition that it is now.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. And and for the purpose of this, I'm going to apply that discussion to the lowest responsive bidding requirements that we've had on some of the prior action items tonight. Thank you. We'll move on. Is there a motion regarding Unity Point contract?
Mr. President,
Director Sherwood.
I move that the board accept the administration recommendation to approve a contract with Unity Point at Home for RN and LPN services at $50 an hour for the 2013-14 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
It's not necessarily a discussion, but since we have new student board members here tonight, could someone clarify, what we're actually talking about here?
This is a contract that will provide, in this case, there are 4 students, for special education students with an IEP that need nursing services. Usually they'll need them at home, and they'll need them in school also. So we determine whether the student needs services provided by a school nurse, or if actually we should hire a nurse that stays full-time with them. In other words, picks them up at their home, brings them to school, and takes them back. So this is what this contract is for.
Is there any additional discussion? I've got a couple of questions. I'm still a little confused on the letter that we received in the third paragraph, first sentence. It says $48.75 per hour for an RN or $39.99 per hour for an LPN was negotiated, and then it uses the higher rate, the $48.75 times 8 hours times 178 school days. And I'm curious why we use the higher of the two for the estimating purposes. Wouldn't it be more likely to be the average of the two?
It might, but when we're contracting, it might have to count on the maximum we might need. So what if in every case it was the higher amount? I have to have that approval from you rather than the average. So we're not sure if it's going to be an LPN or an RN, but we need the higher amount to be approved.
And my understanding from reading this is that what we're essentially contracting for is one full-time nurse for 8 hours a day for 4 students. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I'm curious, why 8 hours a day if the students aren't in school for 8 hours a day? Why do we pay for 8 hours?
The nurse will accompany them from their home on transportation, then back from school to their home. So that ends up being about 8 hours per day.
And it is required to have a nurse full-time with each one of those students?
It is determined by the IEP, so yes.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Director Robertson.
My understanding was when Patty came and talked about this and explained it in great detail, I don't know if we had a whole lot of choices other than to accept this contract in terms of what was required. And if I misunderstood that, I need some clarity on it because that was my understanding.
The contract she came to talk to you about was one that was services for one student, and
Right.
it was different than this. These are just nursing services.
Okay.
But in one case, they're similar because, again, we have determined through an IEP process that they need nursing, and then we further look and make an evaluation. Can the school nurse do that? If not, then we need to have a full-time with them. So there is a decision process made, but in the end, it is an IEP requirement.
So we're talking about full-time care for this particular student, right?
During the
Not
school hours.
something that the other nurse could actually do if they're going to take care of the regular students?
Correct.
I guess it raises the question for me, when we discussed that last contract, which was for $93,000 and some change, I think, my recollection is that ultimately what was said was that it would probably only cost the district around $50,000 of additional money. Is that about correct?
As I recollect, she indicated, but again, we were looking at the high amount to make sure that we had
I understand.
coverage.
I understand. But then in a similar way, what I would ask is on these 4 students, if we're going to spend a total of $280,000, right, for these 4 students?
Yes.
Approximately.
In that, yes.
And what portion of that in dollars would the district probably end up being responsible for?
I couldn't tell you. We potentially might need it all, again, if we use LPNs rather than RNs, or if there are days a student doesn't come to school, that would certainly change it. I also want to point out, last year we were paying an average of $70 per hour for the nurses, and again, Patty Pace Tracy was able to negotiate. So although this is a high amount, it's expensive, it's a lot lower than last year per student.
And I understand, and I may not have expressed my question correctly. I understand the contract amount. What I'm talking about is that the district then is able to recoup some of the money. And I'm just saying, of that $280,000, which seems like a lot of money to me, what part of that in dollars or percent or however you want to express it would we probably end up being responsible for?
We would file a claim at the end of the school year. The state establishes what they determine is a high-cost threshold, and if you have costs for a student that exceed that threshold, that's when you get reimbursed by the state. And I believe this year it was somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 that the district would have to pay for, but any cost over that, we would get reimbursed by the state.
So are you saying that it would be, say, $50,000 per student, that we will end up being responsible for $200,000 of the $280,000?
I would estimate that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional discussion?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
The question I have, Marshall, are there any other agencies that would participate in that we might be able to recoup some of our charges?
Some of those costs may also be reimbursable through Medicaid, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I thought that came up in the last conversation, that Medicaid would be involved in that. That's why I asked that question.
Adam?
I'm just curious, is it at all possible that as these kids obviously need a nurse, that the cost can be paid for in part or in full, if possible, by the parents, either by themselves or their insurance? Like, I'm just curious why it is the responsibility of the district for a nurse that the children obviously need.
Superintendent Tate?
We go under something called free and appropriate education, and we do have to pay for that if it's a requirement. It's part of their education. It's part of making sure they can access that education. So,
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Cody?
I was just curious that you said 8 hours a day. Are they with them throughout the entire school day, taking them to classes and such too?
yes, in this case, and again, if there's a student that can be dropped off at the school with a nurse and then the school nurse take over, that would happen. But in the case of these 4 students, it's with them the entire day.
Any additional discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Sherwood? Yes. Director Crumwoody?
Yes.
Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
No.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director DeFau?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. At this point, for item E and F, it's going to be a little bit different. and we're trying to comply with some state requirements on this. So for E, I'm going to give the chair to the vice president, and he will give it back to me for F. The intent in these two motions is that the board is going to give a weighted vote. For instance, if there were more than one person running for either of these, we might weight the vote for two people. In this case, there are only one person running for each of the positions, but the vote will still be weighted in accordance with the vote. So at this point, I'd like to turn the chair over to Vice President Crumwoody.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do I have a motion for item E, AEA Director, District 1 election?
Mr. Vice President,
Director Kluhl?
I move that the board authorize the Davenport Community School Board President to cast the weighted vote of the Davenport Board for Ralph Johansson to represent Director District 1 for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Board of Directors.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Have we had board members fill these positions before?
Yes, we have.
Every time? I thought we hadn't.
Well, not every time. The most recent people that we have on the AEA board, first of all, for the public's information, the AEA board, I believe, is comprised of 7 or 9 members, I'm not exactly sure, which represent the 22 school districts throughout the area education agency. Davenport, because of its size, has 2 seats on the AEA board. And it's important that the Davenport board would elect Davenport residents. If it would not elect Davenport residents, it's my understanding that these seats then go to convention. And what that means is that the AEA board would select the 2 board members that represent Davenport Community School District.
My question is,
Well,
have we had
I wanted to give that information first. The present people on the board who are both retiring from the board in District 1, where Director Johansson is running for, is Janita Harris. Janita Harris was elected 25 years ago to the AEA board, which at that time she was a member of the Davenport School Board. Dave Swim, who was a teacher in the Davenport School District, is the other director in Director 2 right now, who has served on that board for a number of years. I don't know exactly. But yes, and it's almost encouraged that school board members get involved with the AEA board. For example, Robin Kruger, who is presently the president of the AEA board, was elected when she was president of the Muscatine School District Board. So we have other board members on the AEA board who are school board officials at the present time.
I just thought it was our practice to get additional community people involved by having people other than board members represent us on that board.
Well,
I don't care. I just
yeah,
wanted to
Janita
know.
Harris was a school board member, and Dave
Not when she
Swim.
was elected.
Yes, she was.
The EA board?
Yep, she was on the Davenport board when she was elected. It's my understanding, and has served in that capacity for 25 years. So, anyway, both of them are stepping down. Any other discussion?
Mr. Vice President?
Yes,
I
Director
wonder if
Kluhl.
it might be appropriate to ask President Johansson what he proposes to accomplish as an AEA director.
Huh? Oh, Director. President Johansson, would you like to respond to that question?
I'll tell you, I haven't really given that much thought. A couple things happened here. As these AEA directorships opened up, and I believe that Director Zamora is correct in trying to encourage other community members to participate in these activities. However, it looked like nobody was stepping up to the plate. And I did believe, as I learned more about it and understood part of the process, and that we would be essentially giving up that piece of control by not having somebody from the Davenport community in that position. And with there being nobody else running, I decided that it probably would be a good idea to have representation from Davenport, and I thought that I would be an adequate director. Yes.
Any other discussion? Director Sherwood.
We must have had this before us before, is that right? We had a discussion or something where people were asked to submit their names if they were interested?
That information came from our board secretary.
Okay, I don't recall. I'm wondering, is there a time factor here? Why are we doing this prior to the board election?
Yes. The submission of applications had to be completed by August 15th. Just like when you file for a regular school board, there's a deadline. For the AA school board, it's August 15th. And so that's the deadline. And then when the school boards from the 22 school districts decide to elect, they, as I understand it, the installation of those AA board members will be like the first part of October.
Yeah. I would suggest, Mr. President Johansson, that one of your first actions might be to change that date so that incoming new board members have an opportunity to express their opinions and participate in this process. Thank you.
Director Zamora.
Am I correct that you don't work for them any longer?
I do not work for them any longer.
That might be a conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're voting on Director Johansson
I
at this
understand.
time.
Just so we could get all the discussion done now so we could hurry along.
Yes. No, my resignation went in April.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. Let me call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director Defoe.
Yes.
Director Johansson.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. And Director Johansson is our new representative for...
No.
No, what?
I'm not a representative.
You are a new director for the District 1 for the AEA.
Well, why don't you turn the chair over to me?
Okay.
All right.
You have the chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item F. May I have a motion regarding AEA Director District Number 2 election?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I move that the board authorize the Davenport Community School Board President to cast the weighted vote of the Davenport School Board for Ken Crumwoody to represent Director District 2 for the Mississippi Bend Area Education Board of Directors.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Director Kluhl.
I'd like to give Director Crumwoody an equal opportunity to talk about what it is he hopes to accomplish on the AEA
He might
board.
even know.
I'm hoping somebody knows.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what I hope to accomplish, but I think it's really important that we have two representatives from our Davenport School District on that board, because we have the majority of the flow-through dollars. For the public's information, districts generate dollars to provide services for special education and for professional development and for media services at the Area Education Agency. Davenport has the largest amount of money that flows into the AEA. So I feel it's very important that we have Davenport representation on that board. Otherwise, like I said earlier, it would go to convention and it may fall outside of people from the Davenport School District. So we would have a voice in some of the decisions that are made at the AEA with the large amount of money that's flowing into the AEA from our school district.
Director Zamora.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding my question, though. I absolutely agree we need 2 Davenport people. We've always had 2 Davenport people. What did we do to try to recruit parents or community people rather than us?
I can't answer that. I think it's really in the AEA, however they structured it. When they by the time I was notified, it was almost at the last minute. Director Crumwitty, do you have any response on that?
Just the information I received from our school board secretary, and then I talked to Superintendent Tate about it. But as far as the information that goes out to all residents in Davenport or any other school district, I'm not exactly sure how the AEA publishes that information.
But we find our own candidates. I just wondered what we did to find a public candidate, parent candidates or something. It doesn't, I'm fine with you guys doing it. It's just that I'm curious as to why we didn't recruit parents or other community people to represent us. But it's a done deal. We're good.
Well, it's a done deal, and I think this Janetta, what's her last name?
Janita Harris.
Janita Harris. If she had been on the board for 20-some years, it would have been quite some time. I think Dave Swim, I remember some time ago his name coming up, but I don't even know enough about the process to really to explain it. Anyway, I'll keep on going. Any additional discussion? We'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding policy review?
Mr. President,
Director DeFau.
and if you'll indulge me, I'm going to make 2 motions this evening.
Sure.
Okay, so I move the board accept the policy committee's recommendation and approve policy 505.13, student distribution of non-curricular materials.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Director DeFau.
The board may recall that in a previous discussion regarding this policy, Director Kluhl made the recommendation that the second paragraph be stricken, which the policy committee accepted and brings forward tonight for approval. I might also add that this policy was amended a few years ago in relation to a request of a student who was denied the right to distribute materials at West and challenged that. And so the policy reflects the ability to distribute those materials.
Any additional discussion? Director Robertson.
I have a question. So are we saying that the principal then will submit to the central office for approval, not to the building principal for approval? Mr. Scott, what are we saying? But that's not the way it's processed, though, is it? Doesn't it go to the central office? I was told in the past if I brought a pamphlet or a leaflet up and I wanted to distribute to all the schools, that it has to be approved in the central office before it actually could go out to the different buildings. So is or is that not true?
This is about students, though, only. So if a student needs to, it'd be the principal, but someone other than students does come through our office, we still do that.
So the building principal will make the decision for students, and any other will go through.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Director Kluhl.
Our student school board members, this was a real interesting case that we had come up a number of years ago, as Director DeFau mentioned. And you all have copies of the policy there in front of you. The school board initially felt that we could not allow the distribution of religious materials in the school building, but we were enjoined by the ACLU, who made a very good case that, in fact, the school door is not a barrier to religious talk, religious discussion and thought. So we developed this policy to reflect that. And I appreciate the policy committee's deletion of that last paragraph. I still have a concern about the clarity of the second sentence in the first paragraph that says non-curricular materials to be distributed must be submitted for approval by the building principal and must meet certain standards prior to their distribution. As you recall, I requested that we insert there the administrative regulation that in fact describes the certain standards very explicitly. Using the word in policy that the distribution must meet certain standards lacks a certain clarity for me, because I don't know what those certain standards are. But if I say the standards established by Administrative Regulation 505.12a, it's very clear to me what the standards are. So I'm still concerned about the indefinite nature of the language.
Would you care to make an amendment to the motion?
I would. I would I would make a motion to amend that the second sentence read, non-curricular materials to be distributed must be submitted for approval by the building principal and must meet the requirements of Administrative Regulation 505.12a prior to their distribution.
Thank you. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? I'll call for the vote.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Director Zamora.
On here it calls it 505.13, and on here it calls it 505.12. What number is it?
Director DeFau?
I have 505.12.
I have one too.
But you're right, 50, well, no, 50, you're right. it does say
agenda-
The
three.
agenda shows up 13, and the policy shows it as 12.
I just want to approve the right policy.
Yep.
I see the discrepancy. I think we'd have to grab a policy book out of the back.
Would you want to do that?
Sure.
While she's getting the policy book, is there any additional discussion?
I'm just going to make an educated guess that it's 505.12 since the administrative regulation is 505.12a. Just making a bet.
Good guess.
And I just reviewed.
Do student board members have any comments while we're waiting?
Sure.
Oh, really?
Adam?
I'm just asking for the policy review. This policy has already been passed. It's just being amended, right? Or is it not passed yet?
No, what happens is that we have a set of policies. Director DeFau just brought out the manual of policies. So we have plenty of
For
them.
your reading pleasure.
And we have requirements to review policies periodically. I think it's every 5 years. We have a process that we use to review these policies, and we bring them to the board for comments. This has already been to the board. The board has made comments on it. The policy committee has gone back to the drawing board and done their work, and then they're bringing it forth right now for adoption. And right now we're just looking at an amendment to the actual motion. The motion that was made was to adopt 505.13 student distribution of non-curricular materials as revised. And what we're doing right now is a technicality to make sure we have the right policy number. But it's rare that we bring forth a brand new policy. I saw another, Emily, you had.
Actually was going to ask a question, and then he asked the question.
Oh, okay,
somewhat
great.
Somewhat of what I was going to
Well,
say, so you answered it.
Was my explanation somewhat understandable?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, Director DeFau.
And for the record, student distribution of non-curricular materials is 505.12.
Okay, great. So we'll make that change to the agenda, and also I would ask then that the original motion made by Director DeFau, you would accept that change that it's 505.12.
Absolutely.
And the original seconder, which was Director Zamora, you would accept that as 505.12?
Yeah, I think I would.
Great. Thank you. Okay, is there any other discussion on the amendment that has been proposed by Director Kluhl and seconded by Zamora to change the language that clarified certain standards? And I don't have that wording, but the secretary does. Any additional discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl?
Yes.
Director Zamora?
Yes.
Director Robertson?
Yes.
Director DeFile?
Yes.
Director Sherwood?
Yeah.
Director Crumity?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. The amendment has been carried. Is there any additional discussion on the original motion with the amendment as we just voted on? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Director Kluhl.
Could you clarify that?
What this vote is on the amended motion, which would read, it would read this is on student distribution of non-curricular materials. It would read as has been published in this document that you have, with the changes and also with the amendment that was just voted on.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Director Zamora.
Yes.
Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director DeFile.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Crumity.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Director DeFile, you have another motion?
I do. The policy, I move the board accept the policy committee's recommendation and approve 502.15 drills for emergency.
Second.
Thank you. Director DeFile.
This policy, too, is going to have a modest revision to the policy that was in the board packet. And that revision is going to occur at the last line of the second paragraph in reference to the Alice drills. And that change is going to, I'm suggesting, is to Alice, alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate drills will be conducted each semester, with one drill conducted within 20 days of the start of each semester. So it's parallel language to the fire drill modification earlier in the paragraph.
Did you say that again? I thought you were saying 2 drills or something.
Sure. 2 Alice drills will be conducted each semester, with one occurring within 20 days of the start of the semester. And that was a recommendation of the administration, which was spearheaded by Mr. Scott, I believe. Would you like to speak to that, Mr. Scott?
We typically have done 1 lockdown per semester, and speaking with Mr. Nyrick, he would like to have seen it go to 2 per semester.
Okay.
Are you making that as a change to the original motion for you and the seconder to agree on, or are you making it as an amendment to the motion to adopt the this policy as it's written?
What was my intent to ask the board to approve the amended motion, but the amended policy, but I may not have stated it as such.
Okay, I'll accept that if the seconder accepts that.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thanks. So, so what we're voting on is this this motion as written with the amendments that have been described. Okay, thank you. Is there any additional discussion? I have a question. How long does one of these drills take?
I don't know that we've conducted an Alice drill to date. Superintendent?
Oh, an Alice drill? We have not. Alice drills are going to be interesting because we're going to talk about both lockdown as well as evacuate, so I just can't tell you. Let's say 20 minutes, perhaps.
Okay, thank you. Any additional discussion? Sure. Adam?
I'm looking at the wording saying 1 fire drill and 1 tornado drill conducted within the first 20 days of the start of each semester. If that's followed through, then you're going to be having high school kids who, because of the wonderful heating in all buildings, oftentimes will wear shorts and t-shirts inside, go outside, likely in either standing snow or falling snow, for between 5 to 15 minutes, and just wait outside while the drill is conducted, if done within the first 20 school days. I'm saying this because in my previous 3 years of high school, there's always been one fire drill like that, where we had the entire student body outside, and I would see kids shivering because they're outside in below freezing temperatures in shorts and t-shirts. And I'm just wondering if that should be taken into account or not.
Any comment by the administration?
I personally think at the start of each quarter it would be important to run the drills. There's different classes, they're in different parts of the building, so although we would want to get them in and out as quickly as possible, I still think it would be important to run the drills during that time frame.
Thank you. Superintendent, anything to add?
Well, I think that most principals use their head and judgment and try not to put people out in a snowstorm if at all practical. I mean, we need to hold these. We need to realize that emergencies could happen in the winter as well as the fall. So, again, I would rely on leadership to make sure that they use their head and judgment as they do this.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion? Call for the vote. Director DeFau.
Yes.
Director Zamora. Director Robertson.
Yes.
Director Kluhl.
Yes.
Director Sherwood.
Yes.
Director Crumwitty.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. We're on to discussion. Director DeFau, would you like to lead the discussion on policy?
I'd be happy to, but I have to double check another policy number. If you bear with me for a minute. Okay, boundary lines is not policy 502.12. I believe that boundary lines is 501.12. Yeah. That is correct. 501.12 is the correct number for boundary lines. So this is a policy that we bring forward again for periodic review. It's a policy that the committee placed on hold earlier this year as we were having boundary discussions. As you'll see that we only are indicating a small change, the word annually to be stricken to be replaced with periodically, and then the plural of student populations as opposed to student population. Any feedback for the committee? Okay. Moving on, 501.15 is attendance. And there were some recommended changes by the administration, also some changes in Section B that are being brought for consideration by the committee as it relates to homework during excused absences being eligible for full credit as opposed to partial credit if it's turned in within the appropriate timelines. And then item C, excessive unexcused absences will result in a truancy letter and possible citation. There was some earlier language there that seems to be missing that said excessive absences may result in a truancy letter and possible citation. And the change in language to senior discretionary days was at the request of the administration. Previously known as snow days or other days that students, seniors may be excused from. And so discretionary days seem to be a more accurate descriptor. Yes, Director Poole.
Attendance is such an important issue, and I'm glad the Policy Committee and administration have taken some time to try to strengthen this policy. I just don't know what else to add to this. I'm concerned about the number of concerns that I hear from teachers and some students about the attendance policy not feeling that it's perhaps strong enough, or if strong enough, not adequately enforced, but that's not an issue for this policy. But I would like to follow up on that at a later time. My question is this. Under excuses for absence, C, we've strengthened it and said excessive unexcused absences will result in truancy letter and possible citation. I wonder if administration could just go through the process of issuing a truancy letter, what the truancy letter says, how it's enforced, and does state code allow a police officer to issue a citation?
Well, we have several protocols before we get to the truancy letter. There are at least a minimum of 4 interventions during that time. During our protocol, the citation, we may start out with a visit. We will start out with a visit to the house before the citation is written. And then a follow-up would be, if nothing has happened from that point, then a citation would be written. We would have our district officer make a visit to the house and write the citation at that point.
As a high school principal, was that effective? That's a big question. I don't know if that's fair or not.
I think the interventions are the most important part. The several things, not waiting for 15 days, or it's the teacher input, it's the counselor input, it's the attendance coach input that we had last year along the way, trying to find out what has happened. And then it's the constant week updates that we check to see everybody's had perfect attendance, and then all of a sudden in the middle of February this student stops coming for a week, and trying to find out what happened, what event happened in their life at that time, trying to make a quicker impact rather than getting to a longer time where it's become more of a habit to not come and they get too far behind in class.
How often do you suspect we'd get to the point where we would issue a citation during a year?
Mr. Scott, do you have any idea? I mean, could be
the numbers.
scores.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the actual numbers that we've actually taken them to court, but as how many citations, I wouldn't know that number off the top of my head.
We'll find. It's a great question, but it's scores. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Just a comment in conversations with Gary Shorter, not if Gary's still doing this or not, but in the past, the writing of these citations is only one thing. Actually getting them in court and getting it adjudicated is a whole other different ballgame. And there's been a backlog there historically, according to Gary, and I don't know that we've ever overcome that. Is that still an issue?
Quite honestly, we talk a lot about just even the fact that we have one person for such a large district,
Right.
and we keep him running quite busy.
Dr. Robertson.
The question I have, Mrs. Scott, has school within a school helped this policy in terms of, I listened to the little guys talking about how they started to come to school. So what's going on at the high school level with school within a school?
I know Mr. Lawler at West High School is very high on the program. He's had nothing but good things to say about it, and it's something that is just developing. Actually, I had just spoke to Dr. Tate about the smart boards and trying to do some more interactive activities for those classrooms. But I've heard nothing but good responses from him and from Sedlow.
Because I've heard that absenteeism is really down since they've started at school within a school, that people actually come to school, and if they don't, they get a phone call, and that's why
I think
you're not here.
it's trying to find the right key for each kid. I definitely. So that's just one. Even if we're catching one more, it's a positive.
Thank you very much.
Anything else regarding the attendance policy?
If I may ask, the change in policy Part C, excessive unexcused absences, that I don't really believe that belongs in the excuses for absences category. I think that would make a lot more sense in Part B, board policy on absence. It seems out of place to put that in the part about what is an excuse.
The committee will take that recommendation under advisement.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. And the last policy, 305.01, school food service program. There are no recommended changes, and it has been reviewed by the administration.
All right, is that it? Thank you very much for that discussion. We'll move on to administrative reports. Superintendent Tate.
I have none, Mr. President.
Move on to board reports or requests. Are there any? Director Robertson.
Last Friday, I had the good fortune of going down and visiting with the governor and talked to him about a variety of issues. But the one that's dear to me is about education. And he is still very high on his education reform concerning paying teachers more who step up in the classroom and become leaders, and also trying to raise the salary of incoming teachers so that we can strengthen them in terms of staying in the school system. So once a month I go down and have a conversation, and my part of the conversation is really about education. And you have a small window, so you don't get a whole lot of stuff in there, but he's very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional board reports or requests? Director Sherwood.
I'm not sure how many more times we're going to have to do this, but I know I want to personally thank Larry for his service, and we'll do this perhaps again at some point. But I want you to know how much I appreciate you being here. I know this is a lot of work, and you've done an excellent job. And I hope to follow your courageous lead and get out in 2 years.
Bye.
Any additional reports or requests? All right. Well, I've got a few. Excuse me. At the last meeting, I asked for volunteers for the teacher pay committee. I had one director volunteer for that position. We had been asked for two, so I would.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Depending on tomorrow, I would volunteer.
Okay, great. Then I appreciate that, and I'll accept that. So then we have two. Director Sherwood. I want to talk a little bit about the meeting next week, because I have not been clear enough with the board or probably with the community on what this meeting is. And I'll be sending out information to the board fairly quickly, probably by tomorrow, with an agenda. Excuse me. What has happened here is that there has been or there have been a number of discussions, questions, actions that have been taken in our community, and the superintendent has asked for some guidance by the board with respect to diversity, discrimination, and I'm going to open up that discussion. It will be a discussion by the board. It will be a regular board meeting. It will not be a forum. So what we intend to do, we've already contacted the Department of Education. They're going to have a speaker here who's going to talk for probably about a half an hour on affirmative action, what that means, what are we allowed to do, and what are we not allowed to do. And then I will be asking the board for some direction to give to the administration with respect to some of these, and I will hand out some of those specific questions, like say probably by tomorrow, so that everybody has a fairer chance to give some thought to this before we get into that discussion. I wanted to thank again our student board members. You really are important to all of us, and we appreciate the comments and questions that you've had tonight. It was fantastic to hear you speaking like that. So thanks again for coming. We know it's a challenge. You have, as many of our board members pointed out, you have so much going on, and it's difficult, but your time is truly, truly appreciated. And the last thing I wanted to comment on is that tomorrow is a really important date. For those of you that can, you student board members, it's a great opportunity to get out there and to participate in this process. The school board elections are generally not very well attended, and it's really unfortunate. It probably exists throughout our country, I would guess, but in our community, the budget from the Davenport School District, I believe, is bigger than the county budget and bigger than the city budget. And it is really, really important work that you're doing by participating in this and by participating in the election as well. I wanted to thank all of the candidates that are running. We have 2 incumbents. We have Director Zamora and Director Kluel that are running, and we have 3 other candidates that are in our audience. We have Mrs. Cressy, right, and Maria Dickman and Jamie Snyder. And they're sitting right behind here in the audience, so thank you all for being here. But thanks again for all of the candidates for running in this election. That's the last I have for my report. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.